But at 8 months old, he went to heaven in his sleep. So he went down for his afternoon nap and he was found, he wasn't breathing. So it was ambulances and rushed to hospital and several hours of attempts at resuscitation, but he was gone. He looked so peaceful when we held him. He just looked like he was sleeping. My husband Gabriel and I stood there and watched the resuscitation for, I really actually don't know how long it was, but it would have been hours. And I do remember when they finally told us that they were not going to keep resuscitating. We told them that his name is Theodore, and it means gift of God, and that he has always been a gift and he always will be a gift. We went home from the hospital and it just felt very lonely. Even though I had Gabe and I had Max, it was like this noisy child who'd been everything for the past 8 months had gone. I still remember the first mass that they took me to that day after he died. All I remember from that day is kneeling there and just looking at the Eucharist and saying, I have nothing. That was my only prayer. I have nothing. And that was all I could say to our Lord. You're all I have. That's it. Nothing I do. I'm not in control of any of this. I didn't want to go to the funeral. Poor Gabriel had to organise everything for the funeral because he was kind of more together and I was like a zombie. And I guess after the funeral was over and kind of everyone had gone home, or, you know, life was kind of meant to go back to normal, I still had Max to look after, which was a great blessing. And I remember during that time we would say goodnight to Teddy every night and he understood that. The first time he was a bit confused, he thought Teddy might be around somewhere, but I think he then started to realise it was a prayer. I felt like a piece of wood on the ocean, being tossed around in the waves, but I wasn't sinking. And during that time, many people sent me quotes from Saint Zélie, the mother of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux. And she had lost 4 children of her 9, 4. It helped me so much, knowing that there was this mother who had gone through this, a mother who was a saint, and could pray for me knowing what I was going through. That was a huge consolation. Life went on, and we kept praying. I very much feel Teddy's presence all the time. He is our very own patron saint of our family. Our children pray to him every day. They know that if they have a trouble, they can pray to their brother. He is a constant reminder to us of how important it is that we go to heaven. I can't tell you what a gift it is to be able to talk to children about heaven all the time. It's very real to them. It's not some abstract, far off, one day kind of place. They know that they could die any moment and that this world is not all there is, that they are destined for heaven. Zélie was born less than a year after Teddy died, and I always call her my precious gift.
Let's stop the game!
God sent her specifically because she is the most healing, smiley, joyous child. And then came Louis. Louis was born with the same muscle disorder that our other son has, but Louis is more severe. So when he was born, his limbs were really not strong and they were all kind of contractured up. He had a cleft palate as well. So yeah, he's had a lot more difficulties than your average child. He has had to work very hard for every little bit of movement he has. We never thought he would be able to feed himself when he was born, but he certainly can, and he started school this year. So he gets around school in his amazing electric power chair, and he's probably the most well-known kid in the school. So whenever I walk into school with him, everyone's like, "Hi, Louis!" Like, you know, year sixes, preppies, everyone loves Louis. He has never complained about anything. Never questions why. Just the other day, something happened and he said, "Mum, I'm the luckiest boy in the world." Things are very hard for him, and things will be very hard for him. You know, I'm happy to take on whatever the Lord gives me, but it's a different spiritual journey to surrender your child to that and pray that they will also be able to surrender their journey, their suffering to the Lord. There's that saying that God doesn't have grandchildren. He only has children, so I can't do that for him. It has to be him. So there's a great amount of trust that has to come with there. And then a few years later came along Naomi. She has been my most humbling child because I thought that I know how to parent, but she's actually been the most energetic and willful. She's only 2, so I don't know what kind of personality she'll bring through, but right now she seems like she's going to change the world.
I've been happily married to Javina now for, I thought it was 15 years the other day, but I was corrected. It's actually 11 and a half.
This is true.
Our day-to-day life is full of little moments of faith and prayer, and that's something I think we help each other with. That I see patients, I see how they suffer, and I see the difficulty they have when they really have no explanation for their suffering. As a doctor, I think the things that I've been through help me to be more empathetic, help me to be a better professional, hopefully to be a better husband.
Definitely. Yeah. Gabe wrote the most beautiful eulogy. I didn't write any of it, but being able to get up there and say that with you, yeah, that was a great gift. But it was you who was really keeping things going in the beginning. And then I think perhaps later...
Which is not the norm.
But later the grief really hit you a bit later, didn't it?
Yeah. It was very difficult to understand why we would have a child that was well and would pass away unexpectedly and be left with a child that we knew was going to face some difficulties with his health.
Yes.
And also the great uncertainty we've had because of the genetic condition our children can carry.
Yes.
Or develop, to know that this would be possible future suffering for any child that we had.
When I walked the Camino long before we started dating, probably one of the only times I've ever really felt a strong message from the Lord was during that time, after a particularly hard day of walking the Camino. And he said to me, "You will face great suffering in your life." And so I took that on board, but I was like, okay, sure. Let me unite it. Like, you know, I was on pilgrimage, so it was all like, I will use this suffering. And then on our wedding bands, we have inscribed the path to holiness, Camino de Santidad. And I think neither of those two things did I understand very well, that message of you will have great suffering, and nor did I understand what a path to holiness really means, because I think it sounds really nice, when it's inscribed on a wedding band and said at a wedding. But I think this thing we call marriage and family, I had a whole image of what it would look like, and it didn't look like this, which is not to say that I don't want this. This is a far better image than anything I could have planned or written. And it's certainly, I feel it's bringing me much closer to holiness than my plan had been.
In those months after we lost Teddy, I would go to work and I would see colleagues. For them, that day is normal, it's a normal day, they're acting like everything's normal, but they have no insight into what's happening in your heart. And so that's the case for every person you meet ever, really.
Yeah, absolutely. After Louis was born, a few months later, someone said to me, "Oh, all these things that have happened to you, why you?" And my automatic response was, if not me, then who? If it wasn't going to be us, then who better than us to learn from him but also parent him?
Yeah.
Our first son, I had no idea whatsoever that he would be anything other than perfect, like in the world standards. So I didn't know anything, and it wasn't until he was really about 8 months old that I realised, no, there is something physically very different about this child. But my second experience was with Louis. I knew that he would also have this disability. I chose not to have too many investigations because I didn't really want to think of the pregnancy as something that would be a negative thing for me. I just wanted to bring this baby into the world and then we'd face the things. And on paper, if you'd told me, Louis will never walk, he might struggle to hold a pencil, he won't be able to get himself on the toilet, that probably sounds pretty awful on paper, but it doesn't really see the whole person. And so probably even when he was born, it was actually much harder to come to terms with because I hadn't been able to fall in love with him yet and get to know him yet before I already knew those things on paper. And so yeah, there was, at that stage, I had that very real experience of this is radically changing my life. All these things that I find easy now are going to be hard. And our day-to-day life is not what I hoped it would be, but that's not to say it's not joyful. People for a long time, a lot of people around me have always tried not to mention Teddy's name because I think they think it's going to make me remember and have a pain again. But what I've been trying to teach them is that I'm never not thinking about him. So if you remember him, it's actually a great joy to me. We had a beautiful goddaughter born last year. She died at 27 days old. In the same way that so many people were there for us 9 years ago. We were part of that journey with her parents. Not providing any particular wisdom, but just knowing that being present would be helpful to them. And praying for them would be helpful to them. Jesus was with us in that time. I could feel he was right there with us, carrying his cross too. It was always a reminder of how blessed we are to have a God who comes close, who tells us, I am near in the suffering, whose message is not, come to me and I will relieve you of all suffering. It's, there will always be suffering in life, and let me bring you closer to me in that time. Such a blessing.